When you think of an ultimate secret weapon, what comes to mind? Nuclear explosives? Forbidden magics? What about...
わかった。それじゃあ魔王。一緒に遊ぼう。
Yup, that's exactly what I had in mind. Firefly is our first new versatile trucker for Lux, who controls floating armaments to use as laser cannons and swords. Very cool. Let's look into how she works, what teams she fits in, along with ideal potentials, builds, emblems, and discs. Firefly works a bit differently than other versatiles, in that she remains on field as a DPS for an extended amount of time, instead of just casting her skill and then disappearing.
Bye, have a great time!
When on field, she uses a combination of flying sword attacks that deal skill damage, as well as melee slashes that deal auto attack damage, with her two builds each focusing on enhancing one of these aspects. However, each of these builds are made to function with a certain type of main trigger. Specifically, her first build requires proccing of the Loosen effect, while the second requires Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is the current mark type that is procced by every Lux versatile and Vanguard trigger, while Lucent is a new effect that currently only Firefly procs, which is to say that Build 1 cannot be utilized to its full potential with current units. It is likely that this will synergize with a future Lux Vanguard. At least this makes her job easy this time. We'll focus on her second build, the auto attack build. So, what team options does Firefly have? Since her core potentials restrict her to an all-Lux team, the best choice is to run Shia as main, and Telia as support. But what if you don't have Shia? Your next best options would either be Minova main or Jinglin. Yep, this 4-star actually packs quite a punch, and best of all, doesn't need any investments into her skills, making her a very decent low-cost choice. Before we dive into potentials, there's something important we need to talk about. Firefly's damage actually isn't all that hot. Compared to other versatiles, her damage leaves a bit to be desired. As such, you'll find that her personal damage potentials rank quite a bit lower in terms of their overall value. Note that for dual DPS comps, specifically with Minova, potential priorities can be skewed one way or another depending on your investment in each character. For example, if your Minova has better talents or emblems, her personal damage potentials would be more important, and vice versa. Shia's build is very similar to that covered in the original guide for her. Take the Snow Rabbit course on her, the Phantom Step Radiance, and Rime Crystal Edge. On slimmer bosses where it is very unrealistic to hit Shia's full shotgun, Phantom Step Radiance can be swapped out for Astral Pirouette. In this case, you'll want 1 point in Lunar Combo. Glacial Dash, Sub-Zero Dominion, and Reinhardt Pulse make up her main build. Afterwards, Rabbit's Beam can be taken, as well as 1 point in Hare's Pursuit for quality of life. On Firefly, we're locked into build 2, so take Radiance Blaze, Blazing Edge, and Pursuing Slash as cores. Domain of Purity and Luminous Onslaught are her two most powerful buffing potentials, with Cosmic Brilliance being a lower priority. 1 point in Blade of Falling Petals keeps her on field for a little longer, which slightly helps in your Luminous Onslaught uptime. Radiant Ripple and Blade Flash are considerations for Firefly's personal damage, but these are not a high priority at all, in contrast to all the other options. For Telia, take Holy Inscription and Renewed Spectrum. Enemy counter is a high priority as a source of Lux damage taken, which this comp severely lacks. If you have mark damage emblems, Blinding Beam can be powerful, otherwise it's not worth it. Brilliant Relay and Trick Boost are equally important, as are Night Seal and Knight's Oath Courage. While the latter two don't provide as much of an overall boost, making sure to have at least 1 point in Night Seal is important for energy gain, particularly for FTPs using the Cataclysm Disc. Okay, but what if you don't want to bother with the handbraking gameplay that is Shia? Let's first look at Minova. You'll want to run Ultimatum and Ward Trick as cores. More than just pretty and Unyielding Strength are her two most powerful potentials, with the former being a debuff and the latter being just for personal damage. 1 point in both Light Burn and Ashwind Rhythm are very important, as they reduce her skill cooldown and give her auto attack speed respectively. However, further investment in them isn't worth much at all. Radiant Glow is a powerful potential that is also spectacular for AoE. And finally, Home Court Advantage and Starlit Sky can be taken for a bit more damage. Note that since Minova's mark proc rate is very low, Luminous Onslaught on Firefly is not a priority. Because Minova and Firefly both have reasonable damage contribution, there's less weight on potentials such as Telia's Brilliant Relay, which only buff the main tracker. No Minova, no problem. Jinglin can pump out a good amount of damage on her own, even if she can't really support Firefly directly. Take Energy Storage, Bind, and Channel as cores. Conductor Conversion is her most powerful potential by a long shot, granting a disgusting 400% mark damage. Leakage Protection is the next priority after that, allowing her ult to proc marks as it's up, which is very important as Jinglin herself can only proc 1 mark for 4 seconds otherwise. Heavenly Kirin further amps this burst potential by giving her a huge attack buff during her ultimate. Lastly, Auspicious Spirit and 1 point in Lord of Beasts can be considered for a little more damage. Let's talk gameplay. Firefly doesn't really have any super important timing to cover with her skill usage, as you just want to throw her on field as much as possible. Her ultimate does reset her skill cooldown, so that can be used to bridge downtime. Let's instead quickly go over a crash course over the various means you can play her with. First is Shia. This hasn't changed from before. You want to use her first basic attack, and then cancel it by dashing. Then holding dash until the moment you start sprinting, and then letting go, in order to use your first basic attack again. I cover this more in depth in the Shia guide. Check that out if you still need it. For Minova, you want to maintain the debuff from her basic attacks, leaving in her skill when possible. The ideal rotation is basic attack, skill, skill 2 cancel, basic attack again, and then skill 3. Regarding her basic attack, when you hear this sound, that means you just started your 5th basic, and the debuff is about to be applied. With Ultimatum, your skill is a 3-part combo, but only the first and last parts do reasonable damage. That's why we dodge cancel the second skill. But make sure to still get at least one hit in to get the mark proc. After a basic attack combo, use the final skill and dodge cancel as soon as you make this impact. Lastly, Jinglin. So, one annoying thing about one of her core potentials is that it makes you automatically exhaust all of your skill charges. You don't want to do this, as you'll miss out on mark procs. As such, it's good practice to dodge in between skill uses. There's not really much else to her gameplay. When it's time to ult, you can save your skill charges, as your ultimate will be covering your mark procs during the time it's up. So how do these two options compare? Here are some team damage calculations between the three. Note that these calculations use T0 for all characters, including 4 stars. While Shia is on another level, the damage output that Minova and even Jinglin can provide is definitely very viable, especially when you have their talents. Speaking of which, let's talk about Firefly's talents. These all offer fairly generic increases to her personal damage, with her T1 and T3 also benefiting the team's damage via a damage taken debuff. The graph to the right shows the value in a Shia team. Because Firefly's damage isn't too impressive when stacked up against Shia, the team's damage doesn't change by much on talents that only buff her personal damage. What about emblems? These are her emblem values in a Shia team. Note that in these emblem calculations, we are assuming you get all 5 of Firefly's relevant potentials, instead of the 3 you'd focus on normally in a Shia team, as to get a proper evaluation on stat values when you're focusing on Firefly for damage. The usual suspects, pen, crit rate, and support skill +3 remain the highest priorities on the 70 and 80 emblems, respectively. Auto attack damage has decent value as well, followed by looks and skill damage. For the 90 emblem, these are the team buffing values of our 3 relevant potentials. The values for Radiant Ripple and Blade Flash are presented as personal damage values. Note that how this translates into team damage depends on who you're running with. In an optimal Shia team, Firefly's damage share is estimated to be just shy of 25% to put things into perspective. Last but not least, let's cover discs. From this video onward, the disc calculations will no longer be isolated. That is, instead of calculating in an empty setup with no discs, there will be blank effect static event discs, with the number of on and off element discs set according to the number of FTP discs available at the time. We'll start by looking at the discs in the Shia team. In a standard 80 potential build where we're focusing more on Shia's damage, Firefly's limited disc can look a bit questionable. While it does offer auto damage taken, that's about the only useful thing it has. The rest of its effects are either for versatile trackers only, or just weak. Shia's disc remains a powerful choice, but notably, the Cataclysm disc is actually very competitive here. The Finale disc is strong on paper, but will require deliberately taking hits to proc some of its effects. The new event disc, Seda Lake, is the Temu version of her SIG, and isn't really that great. When running either Minova or Jinglin as main, things change by quite a bit. Because they're both versatile, both Firefly Signature and Event Disc get significantly more value, as they'll have full uptime on the main slot. Here are tables for Jinglin and Minova main. just so I don't have to create two graphics, and also so I can fit them both on the screen at the same time. Here's the Excel version. Speaking of which, the individual sheets on the damage calculator will each have the tables containing the emblem and disc calculations alongside a collection of builds. Order character pages may not be fully updated, but moving forward, I'll be keeping these pages as up to date as possible. Anyway, that's it for this Firefly guide. While her personal damage potential may not be on the same level as other versatiles, and one of her builds is made for an unreleased character, she is unironically pretty versatile. I mean this in the sense that she has a diverse arrangement of potential mains who can all work very well with her. From obvious choices like Shia to underrated picks like Jinglin. Of course, she's also super cute. I'm very curious to see how her other build will shape out once that becomes a theme. Until next time, bye bye!